I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions, diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, news. We are 3 weeks before we head into the Arnold Classic, and then 2 weeks later it's going to be the Olympia. This is going to be one of the most exciting 5 to 6 to 7 week periods that we have had in quite some time. We're starting to see the full depth of progress pictures from those competing at the Arnold as well as the Olympia. So a lot of reason for excitement. If you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button below, hit the notification bell. We're going to be loading up our schedule with pre-Arnold and pre-Olympia interviews, episodes of Iron Debate, preview segments, the whole gamut, everything that we usually do during contest coverage season. Multiplied that by 2, given the enormity that we're going to be experiencing over the course of the next 5 weeks. As we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, full disclosure, I have to take my cat for a veterinarian's appointment, so we're going to go right into the questions. All right. First 2 questions, of course, as always, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. If you haven't already done so, it's literally like having Dave as your coach in your pocket, available at all times, available on the Apple Store as well as Google Play. First question. Dave, I have your men's baby making protocol. Any recommendations for women coming off a mild show cycle for higher probability to get pregnant?
You know, look, I know guys that have gotten their wives or girlfriends pregnant on just HCG, but what I found, at least my experience, is that it's unlikely. Okay, if you're on a cycle for a long period of time and your testicles are kind of shut down, you're not producing sperm. The sperm that might be even there, if there's any, are not swimming well. Okay, so you got to turn everything kind of back on. Now, HCG really is more of a target towards turning testosterone back on inside the testicles, which indirectly can influence sperm production, because if your testosterone in your testicles are, raising that level down there, they're indirectly stimulating the Sertoli cells that produce sperm. But if you could take a signal that directly tells the Sertoli cells make more sperm cells, like HMG or even synthetic follicle stimulating hormone, which they make now, they make like a recombinant form of that, you're going to have a much greater likelihood of having a higher sperm count. Now, once that sperm count is elevated, these things still need to develop and start swimming well, which is called the motility. Motility can be influenced greatly, at least in my research and my own personal experience, by taking injectable glutathione. Injectable glutathione at 200 milligrams per day will make those sperms swim way, 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 way better. And taking a very high quality multivitamin will make the morphology, or how they're formed, the health of the actual sperm cells, that will also influence that directly. So the HCG is good and it's cheap and more available, but really HMG is really a much more potent stimulus of increasing sperm count. And glutathione seems to be a really good motility, increaser, which means that make those sperm cells swim better. You could have millions and millions of sperm cells if they don't swim and go where they need to go, which is into the fallopian tubes where the egg is waiting. You're not going to get any babies.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Good one here, Dave, because this is something that it was a debate they used to have pre-classic physique, and that is regarding the men and women's divisions and whether or not there needed to be another men's division. So the question is, do you prefer bodybuilding and fitness in its current states with multiple classes, or Did you like the old school days of just men's and women's bodybuilding and women's fitness?
Well, I mean, the shows were over quicker when there was less classes, so it was maybe a more enjoyable show to watch. But I think as far as the health of the sport goes and all the different athletes we get to look at and analyze, especially if you can do it from home, I think that the sport is better now, obviously. Because what happens is, I think a lot of people got intimidated by the fact that they either had to do bodybuilding or nothing. Now you can do men's physique, you can do classic physique. It gets younger people into the sport because it feels like it's a more doable type of a thing. If I have to put on 25, 30 pounds of muscle before I could even think to get on a bodybuilding stage, I might be shy away from the sport. But if I think I could, I already got abs and I'm already going to the beach and people are telling me I got a good body and I can go do men's physique in 6 weeks from now, I probably will be more likely to compete, and that's going to get me hooked on the sport. And then I might say, okay, I want to add more muscle. Let me go to classic physique because I want to train my legs. Let me go to open bodybuilding because now I want to get bigger. So it's a good way to get more people involved in the sport, and that's obvious because the amounts that we're seeing now on these shows, thousands of people competing at some of these top pro qualifiers, is blowing away what we saw years ago. If you had 150 people in your show, you were doing great. Nowadays, if you had 150, it would be an ultimate failure almost. So growth for the sport is always good for the sport.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us on Instagram, the handle is official_RxMuscle. Of course, with everything going on at the Arnold Classic and Olympia, all that we're going to be doing there, all the behind the scenes stuff, we're going to be loading it up onto our story under our feed. So again, if you're not already following us, and of course, leading up to those weekends, we're going to have all sorts of progress pictures that are being posted across the board. So it's going to be your central resource for everything heading in to the Arnold Classic and the Olympia. Let's go to Ivan Banyanats. Can you tell us more about the synergistic effects of GH and T4?
Personally, I don't believe that thyroid hormone is necessary to supplement when you're taking growth hormone. What happens, what we see on blood work, okay, and this is the best way to tell you what happens, because if you get blood work done, it doesn't lie. Growth hormone causes more T4, which is thyroxine, which is the hormone that your thyroid gland produces, tells more of that T4 to convert into T3, which is the active thyroid hormone. So you got T4 and T3, T4 being inactive, T3 being active. Growth hormone makes more T4 convert to T3, which makes sense because GH happens to be a fat-burning hormone. Now, we know it directly mobilizes fat, but it obviously has an indirect effect on making more inactive thyroid hormone go to active thyroid hormone. So a lot of times I see guys, they go for blood work and they get their T4 levels checked and it's low or on the lower side, and they think that there's a problem. And that's why I always tell people you got to get T3 checked too. Free T3 is important because if you're converting more T4 to T3, which is the important hormone, even if T4 is low and T3 is normal, you're good. Okay, because the T3 is what's doing things. That's what's controlling metabolic rate ultimately. T4 is almost like a storage form of thyroid because it's not really actively doing much. So you got to check all your hormones, and what like I said, what we notice is with GH, T4 converts to T3 more readily. Now, when you're dieting, a lot of times T4 to T3 conversion can slow down, even in the presence of GH. So that's something that that is greatly influenced by insulin levels. So if you have low insulin output because you're eating low carbs, your T4 to T3 conversion can theoretically slow down. GH overrides that a little bit, but sometimes it's good to supplement with extra T3 because it keeps your metabolic rate, moving at a very high level. And the good thing is that if you're on GH or you're on clenbuterol, those hormones and that drug will protect muscle tissue from being cannibalized. Because if you raise thyroid hormone increases the metabolism of not only carbs and fat, but also of protein. Now, you don't want that because you don't want to lose muscle tissue, but if you're taking clenbuterol, which is protein sparing, or taking GH, which is protein sparing, it seems like those two compounds will protect your body from losing or metabolizing muscle.
Let's go to, we have a lot of really good questions. I want to see how many we could hit. All right, so you're back in the gym. I know you posted it on your social media. So the question is what's your current training routine like? Full body, higher reps, lower reps, HIT. So let's start with how you're working your way back into the gym, and I guess what you plan on doing once you're at full tilt?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go to the gym like, a million times a week. I'll probably go 3 times a week, which means I'll probably say, I like to do a 5-day split. So I'll probably do the 2 days I can do at home, where I can do like biceps and triceps at home, because I do all cable work for that anyway. So I have a cable machine at my house. I can do that easily. I'm doing chest obviously at the gym one day. I'm doing back. I just did back today, which was great. I did the assisted pull-up machine. I can't, because of my shoulder replacements, I'm still not back to full tilt and strength. I can't do a full pull-up with my body weight, but I can, they have that machine where you kind of step on it and it kind of assists you. Just going through that motion and really getting a stretch and everything like that felt good today. So I did back today, and I'll do legs, because that's the one thing I really couldn't do in my house. I couldn't do legs. I didn't have a lot of leg machines. I was doing like that stupid, I hate to say it, but it's, you put the cuff around your ankle and you're doing like abductor, adductor, and kickbacks and all kinds of stuff. Really wasn't doing very much for my legs. So I'm back to doing legs now. I did legs on Saturday. I'll do it again on Friday. And I do calves at the gym. Those are things that you cannot do at home. Or I couldn't do at home. I didn't have the equipment. So those are my 3 main days. Then, like I said, I'll probably do maybe even some shoulders. I do shoulders at home pretty well, because I do a lot of side lateral stuff, and that I can do at home. But I'll probably use a couple shoulder machines. I'll probably combine chest and shoulders at the gym. I'll do back on one day. I'll do legs on another day. So that's my 3 training days at the gym. And then I'll do biceps and forearms one day at home, and I'll do triceps another day at home. And then I take 2 days off a week where I don't do anything. And so that's my current split. Now I'm obviously starting back light. It's funny, someone came up to me at the gym. They're like, "Oh, that weight's too light for you." I said, "I haven't worked out my legs in 2 years." I said, "I don't need to be crippled tomorrow." So, and that's something that you guys have to really take into account. Don't be worried about what anyone's watching you do. Do the weights that you can handle, okay? And as you build strength, then you can increase the weights. Don't just do weights because you want to show off for people in the gym. I could give a shit what anyone thinks. I'm going there to get a workout for me, and I do full range motion on everything. And I have an ankle injury now, which I believe has to do with the fact that I haven't really trained my legs so much. So I'm trying to get that back. So when I'm doing calves, I'm really doing, controlled, slow movements. I'll tell you one thing. I like working out. I know there's a lot of guys out there that hate working out. I actually love working out. And I really couldn't go for 3 reasons. Number one, because, 2 reasons. We have kids, young kids. I don't have any time to go to the gym. And number 2 was COVID, right? So now COVID's still there, but in Florida you can go to the gym. And all my kids are in school now. Even my 2-year-old just started nursing. So I'm going to the gym, my wife and I, a couple days a week. It's just, right after we drop them off from school, I go right to the gym, I train, and I'm home by 10 o'clock. So that's my schedule.
Another training-related questions from Nico Cantemir. Your opinion about training legs separately, like one day quads, other day hams, like you did with arms when you competed?
Yeah, here's the problem. When you do biceps, you're really not working your triceps. And when you do triceps, you're not really working your biceps. When you do legs and you're squatting and leg pressing and hack squatting, you're really using quads and hamstrings and adductors. So it's kind of hard to isolate, say, okay, well, I'm going to do hamstrings one day and quads the other day. That's not how it works, okay? So what I used to do back in the day was, I would do a main leg day where I squat and leg press and more hack squat or whatever, my leg extensions. And then if I wanted to, maybe I would do hamstring curls on a separate day and maybe some straight leg deadlifts. And I only did that right before a show, and probably because I had too much time on my hands. To be honest with you, 1 leg day a week is enough. You can do your squats, your hacks, or leg press. You can do your extensions, leg curls, and you know what? That's enough. Then if you do deadlifts on like back day, that's giving you another indirect leg day. That seems to work fine for me. I think people overdo legs and then they don't recover. If you have a weak body part and you train it too much, sometimes the problem is that you can't recover from the workout, so you're making the situation worse. But if you have weak hamstrings and you want to throw an extra hamstring day in there, that's fine. I wouldn't be doing a full bore leg workout twice a week, however.
Questions from Soren Popa. Not sure, in all the years that I've been working with you, if you've ever discussed this or been asked this before, is a weight cap in men's open a good idea? And he specifically goes on to say that if we want to see streamlined waists and great conditioning.
Yeah, we have that. It's called classic physique. For your height, you have a weight cap, and that's the way it goes. Open is you can do whatever you want. I think it's a great idea. I think they should do that for women's physique. They got women's bodybuilding. You want to differentiate women's bodybuilding, women's physique? Put a weight cap on the women's physique girls. You can, if you're for this height, you can only weigh so much. And then you won't get girls that are out of proportion. You won't get girls that are too big. And you'll have a modicum of controlling that division. And then you let women's bodybuilding be for the girls who want to get bigger. That's all. I think that would work terrifically. But I think for men, classic is your weight limit. Yeah.
Let's go to bodybuilding and wrestling. Can you explain another training related question? How many sets were you doing per body part roughly? I know every set was to death, but how many?
For bigger body parts, I always did more. So, legs and back were probably like 12 to 15 sets. Chest was like 9 or 10 sets. Arms were always less, maybe 6 to 7 sets for biceps, and maybe 8 to 9 or 10 to the most sets for triceps. Shoulders probably around, maybe 8 to 10 sets total. That sounds like it's still volume, but it's not a lot of volume. Because remember, I'm doing like 3 or 4 exercises, so I'm doing like an average of 2 sets per exercise. Sometimes I did 1 set per exercise if I was already warmed up, and obviously the first exercise I'm always doing 3 or 4 sets because I got to start light and build up. I don't want to get hurt, So, and I count all sets. So if I'm bench pressing, and I'm starting with the incline bench press and I'm doing 4 sets because the first 2 sets are theoretically warm-ups, that's 4 sets. And then I'm going to go to dumbbells. I might only do 2 sets because I'm already warmed up. I'm going to go heavy and heaviest. And then I might end with cable crossovers, 1 set. I'm already warmed up. I go to my heaviest weight. I bang out as many reps as I can, and I'm done. And that's my chest workout. And believe me, I don't even want to do any more sets after that because I'm giving 100% to it. So, you're looking at 8 to 10. It depends, like I said, the body part and how many different exercises. I like variation, so I like to change the angles on things. So for back, I might do 5 different exercises. So if I'm averaging 2 sets per exercise, or that's 10 to 12 sets right there. So most guys though are doing 25, 30 sets. That's just too much volume. I think it's a waste of time as far as I'm concerned too.
Question from T Bam Bam, good friend of the show, says he's in his 50s, has been competing since he was 23 years old. He wants to know your thoughts on why we're seeing so many bodybuilders with beards these days. And his take is that for as long as he's been competing, the thought has been, facial hair takes away the judge's eyes from your physique, and a clean-cut look is always more appealing to the judges. Your opinion?
I look back at the 70s, and I see some of these hairdos with the mustaches, and I'm like, what the frick were these guys thinking? And then I'm like, that was the look of the day. Everyone likes to fit in, right? For some reason, beards are in now. I don't know why. I in bodybuilding, I always thought that bodybuilding should be a very clean-cut type of look, no long hair, because you don't want to detract from your physique. You don't want people looking at your beard or your hairdo or you want people to be looking at your body, and that's why the whole thought behind no tattoos. But tattoos, while being a little distracting, they really don't. They're not sticking out. They might change the color of your skin, but they're not sticking out off your body. So I don't know why people do beards. Like I said, it's almost like a style of the day, so to speak. And I'm sure in 5 years from now, people will be like, look at those idiots with the beards. That's the history of mankind. It goes in, and I always give the analogy, you've heard me say this before, said my father used to have, in his closet, he would have 1 rack of ties that are thin and 1 rack of ties that were thick. And I always asked him why he was keeping depending on what style was it, why do you have those thin ties? Everyone wears thick ties. He goes, because the thin ties will come back in style again. And he was always right. They would go back and forth. So that's just the history of our species. We get bored, For a while, everyone's hair was combed back. Then people were styling it forward and then sticking it up like a mohawk. And I remember when I was competing, if you had a mohawk, you were an idiot, you were a pariah. Now, then they went through that stage where everyone had a mohawk. So it's just styles, that's all.
Time for a couple of more questions. Go to Jeremy Dutra. What can cause a lowered ejection fraction in the left ventricle of the heart? Any ways to improve it?
There's pathological, meaning that there's something wrong with you, lower ejection fraction, meaning that your heart just is not beating strong enough and it's weak. And then there's like a lower chamber size. In other words, if you're a huge bodybuilder and your heart, which is a muscle, gets bigger and thicker, okay, so that it can be stronger and pump blood more vigorously to your muscles, because your body demands that, right? Because you have so much muscle and you weigh so much, then your ejection fraction theoretically might decrease. Why? Because the size of your heart is so big that the chamber actually got smaller. So when it squeezes out the blood, the left ventricle, less blood comes out. But the force with that blood comes out is much greater because the muscle is bigger and stronger. So is that lower ejection fraction necessarily a bad thing? I say no, because it's an athletic heart. Now, if your heart is all enlarged and it's because it's not functioning properly and it's going crazy and it's trying to get bigger to try to compensate for whatever damage has been done to it, that's a different story. If you have a reduced ejection fraction because your heart is not functioning well, then that's something you got to be concerned about. So you got to kind of differentiate between the athletic heart and the non-athletic heart. I noticed that I had always had a very big, larger heart and a thickened left ventricle. Since I stopped training as heavy as I did, and I even went through a period where I wasn't training very much at all, because when I had my shoulders replaced, I went for a CT scan of my heart, and they told me my left ventricle is almost normal size now, because it detrained itself. I had an athletic heart, it got smaller. If I had a pathological heart, which was something wrong with it, it wouldn't have changed size. It would still be oversized, because those oversized hearts that don't function well are because there's something wrong with their heart. If you're athletically influencing the size of your heart, and thus, because of that, you're experiencing a lower ejection fraction, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Let's go to Eurasian Beauty. Now, for the purposes of this question, I haven't, because the question is about Nick Walker, and I guess comments that he made saying that he will win both the Arnold and the Olympia this year. I haven't seen that comment made anywhere, but I'm going to assume, let's just assume for the purpose of the question, that he did say that. What do you think about this confident attitude of Nick Walker? Do you buy into the possibility of Nick Walker winning both the Arnold and the Olympia? If not, one of the two.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think that, number one, if you're going to go compete at the Arnold and at the Olympia, you better believe you can win it. Otherwise, why are you wasting your time? So I think Nick is got the right mindset. He's going there to win. Now, whether he wins or not is out of his hands, because it's not like a race or anything like that. It's just being judged by judges. So I think he has the right mindset. You have to believe. If you ask Jay Cutler, are you going to win the Olympia every single time he competed? He said yes, because he was that confident in himself. I think Nick Walker could win the Arnold. I think he obviously has the potential to do that. Do I think he'd win the Olympia? Probably not this year. But the attitude to go in there that I'm going to win the Olympia, I think that's smart. I don't think that there's very much of a chance at all for Nick Walker to win the Olympia. But who knows? Maybe the top 5 guys will come in out of shape and Nick won't, and he'll win. I don't know. But I think he has a good shot at winning the Arnold. I definitely do. I think there's a lot of guys in the lineup who are really talented, but I think there's no one who's bigger than he is, right? I mean, so a couple of the guys that have slightly better muscle maturity and stuff like that, and that are more seasoned competitors, they can come in off. I see it every year. It happens every year. There's never been a show that I've ever seen where every single person has been in shape. Never, ever. Matter of fact, there's never been a show that probably 90% of the people have been in shape. So that's just the way it goes. I mean, there's always problems and people being off and getting sick and et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on, and so do the excuses. So Nick Walker, great mindset, I think, going into the show. Can he do it? Anything's possible.
Well, I could say this, just that attitude, that mindset is just going to add another layer to the excitement heading into the Arnold Classic. It's going to be one of the, if not the deepest Arnold Classic lineup that we have ever seen. So understandably, it is something that fans are going to grab at, fans are going to be excited about, and all to look forward to in a course of just over 3 weeks. So hard to believe, in just over 3 weeks, we're going to be at the Arnold Classic covering it for you, and it is going to be absolutely blockbuster what we're going to see on stage in 3 weeks. That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. All new episode of Iron Rage with Dave and Lee Priest coming down the pike tomorrow. Right now on the channel, all new episodes of Heavy Muscle Radio, a hilarious all new episode of the After Hours podcast, more of Jimmy the Bull's wildest conspiracy theories about how the pyramids are built, about space, about fallen angels, about the recent hurricanes. You're not going to want to miss it. It is absolutely, absolutely hilarious. Again, subscribe below, hit the notification bell. We're going to be loading up the content over the course of the next 3 weeks, previewing the Arnold Classic and the Olympia. For Dave Palumbo and Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.